Hello and welcome to Wasted Plotential, where we discuss the wasted potential of our favourite plotlines. Cetrion was a shockingly underwhelming new addition to the MK11 roster. Part of this is a result of all the game's newcomers being villains, meaning none of them get their own story chapters, meaning none of them ever win a fight because NetherRealm refuses to fix this glaring issue with all of their story modes. Until Aftermath, I guess. But it's also because, for all the hype, she's just a horribly uninteresting character with no personality, no real motives, and no notable actions in the story. Cetrion is an Elder God, the first playable one added since Shinnok's playable debut in MK4. She is his sister, and cited multiple times to be his equal and opposite. Given that he was the final boss of MK4, positioned as an even greater threat than Shao Kahn, even when one can assume his status as a fallen Elder God would mean he isn't even at his full power, this sets Cetrion up to be a massive threat. The writers pretend this is the case by forcing the characters to use power-ups to be able to match her, but without being allowed to show off what she can really do, it's hard to get the feeling she's all that much higher than Raiden's level. Her role in the story is thus. As the daughter of Kronika, she betrays the other Elder Gods to help her mother in her attempts to rewrite reality. She retrieves Kronika's crown from Jackie and past Jax and then stands around waiting to be told what to do. She then starts having second thoughts about her mother's plans for seemingly no reason, but still goes through with it anyway. She loses to Fire God Liu Kang and then allows Kronika to take her soul so she can gain more power.
You should kill yourself now!
Yes, Mother, I understand.
And in Aftermath, she loses to the newcomers without any power-ups and gives up her soul again.
You should kill yourself now!
Yes, Mother, I understand.
She has no will of her own until she randomly starts to question herself, and then that doesn't go anywhere. So what if we try to make something out of her? I'm not promising anything particularly unique, but I think these changes would make her memorable for reasons other than Cetrion steps on all characters' YouTube compilations. I've mentioned a number of times that I've wanted to make a Cetrion episode, but wasn't able to because to do so, I'd need to understand her role in Kronika's scheme, meaning I'd need to understand Kronika's scheme. Well, today I'd like to announce that I still haven't figured it out. I have, however, come up with a pretty good way to make Cetrion work, as well as make Kronika's plot make more sense. Whatever her plot actually is. We do so by making Cetrion's better nature the core conceit of her story. In this version of the story, Raiden's torture and taunting of Shinnok doesn't result in the fallen Elder God laughing off his attempts to threaten him, but instead an arrogant outburst along the lines of his frustration with Johnny Cage from MKX.
Miserable wretch! Insignificant speck of feculent scum! How dare you!
Here though, his outburst lets slip that Raiden has been manipulated this entire time and that Shinnok's rise cannot be prevented. He gives away enough information for Raiden to eventually work out that Kronika is plotting some sort of time rewind. In response, she recruits the Revenants to help defend the Hourglass in the event Raiden can become a real threat. With the attack on the Spire, Raiden can kill some of the Revenants to show what a threat he is alongside the Spire's destruction. This forces Kronika's hand, especially as Raiden learns of the Kronika connection fully during this mission, so she plots to bring past villains into the present to assist her, particularly Shao Kahn, who has already proven to be stronger than Raiden. This is where Cetrion comes in. While it would be tricky to make Cetrion's betrayal of the Elder Gods a reveal here, we need her involvement to be made clear up front. Maybe we have a Raiden and the Elder Gods scene at the start, and then when past Raiden goes to consult them, he finds they're all dead, save for Cetrion. Maybe Cetrion has some kind of disguise like that really piss-poor one Frost has at the start. Or maybe we know Cetrion is working with Kronika, but we don't learn she's an Elder God until past Raiden speaks with the Elder Gods. Either way, we see her helping Kronika to pull the past villains into the present, but past heroes are also brought forward alongside them. When questioned on this, Cetrion claims she wanted to take advantage of the way immortals are affected differently to bring past Raiden forward to erase the present version that knows about Kronika's involvement, but got a bit overzealous. Kronika accepts this explanation, either excusing it on the grounds that Cetrion has far less experience with the Hourglass than she does, or that Kronika has been making the Elder Gods inept all this time and assumes she's also dumbed down Cetrion in doing so. But of course we later learn this was very much intentional on Cetrion's part. She has realised that Kronika's vision is not necessarily the best and wonders if perhaps an uncorrupted Raiden could do better if he had more power to change things than just his amulet, which we also learn was gifted to Raiden by Cetrion as a test for this, assuming that if he can't do better, Kronika can easily undo what he's done. And so far, Raiden hasn't done a particularly bad job in Cetrion's eyes. And as for why the Elder Gods didn't know about Kronika's intervention, the best I can come up with is that they're immune to time control, but they are affected by time alterations, so a reset will leave them none the wiser in the next timeline, and also restore Shinnok, whose status also stops a past incarnation from being pulled through time to replace his decapitated self. As for why Kronika didn't simply stop Raiden from decapitating him, she's an idiot. And for why she can't just send someone back to intervene, it requires too much power and she'd rather use that power for a full reset. I told you I had to effectively fix Kronika to salvage Cetrion, and even then there's only so much I can do. After this, Cetrion's role in the story is unchanged up to the finale, with one exception. Thanks to the restoration of the Netherrealm Spire, throughout the story we see Cetrion speaking with Shinnok's head to voice her concerns. He can't speak anyway, so he can hardly snitch on her. She does still believe in Kronika's potential to make the perfect timeline, especially as this Raiden begins slowly shifting towards his darker self and making her question her previous faith in him. I actually wrote this episode twice, once before Aftermath and once late last year after forgetting about the first version. This video is an amalgamation of the two. In the previous version, Cetrion didn't have prior plots against Kronika with Raiden, but instead started doubting her mother more notably in Chapter 9. Present Jax has defected to Kronika's side to make a better life for Jackie in the new era. Past Jax is disgusted by this, and Jackie is in disbelief. Cetrion puts Jackie in a life-threatening situation to force past Jax to hand over Kronika's crown. It's seeing the conflict between parent and child that gets Cetrion thinking again. In her mind, her mother was at the very least the best option for creating a balanced universe, but seeing Jackie so vehemently stand up to her father, she can see where Jackie is coming from and starts to wonder if perhaps she could stand up to her own parent. Some of this can still work in the current version, but more as something that starts to steer Cetrion away from Kronika again after Raiden starts to shake her faith that anyone else could do this right. There is also a small side plot involving Jade. Instead of just disappearing before MKX and showing up again with no explanation despite now being the most prominent revenant aside from Liu Kang, we instead reveal that the mystery woman from Jade's MK9 ending was actually Cetrion, not Jade's mother. She saved Jade from being a revenant and made her a secret enforcer to act on her behalf to avoid arousing suspicion from Kronika or the other Elder Gods. This Jade shows up to help the heroes at a few points including Jax and Jackie on the island, supposedly fighting Cetrion off to excuse the Elder Goddess not killing either of the Briggses when she has the chance.
Actually, you fucking moron, that would erase Present Jax. Fucking idiot.
Yeah, and his one job is already complete, so why would Kronika care if he got erased? And one more side thing, the reason Kronika and Geras can't just teleport directly into the Dragon Grotto to get the water is that there is a powerful barrier around the temple that can only be disabled from the grotto, hence the need for Geras and the Revenants to fight their way through. In the finale, Cetrion remains conflicted and fights Liu Kang on her mother's behalf. During this fight, Kronika doesn't keep stopping to taunt Liu Kang, she actually keeps going with her attempts to rewind time and leaves the task of dealing with the monk to Cetrion. With her power-up, Cetrion actually manages to get the upper hand and has Liu Kang at her mercy. Kronika is too distracted to notice Cetrion's doubt as Liu Kang tries to get through to her. Cetrion's hand is forced when Kronika, finally noticing Cetrion's hesitation, takes some souls from the hourglass and sends a blast at Liu Kang, only for Cetrion to take the hit for him. Severely wounded, Cetrion transfers her soul into Liu Kang, powering him up to Elder God status and being more powerful than that due to being a merger of an Elder God, Lesser God, and two versions of the same person, the latter of which being how he's immune to Kronika's powers. Visually, I'm thinking he can get gauntlets and maybe even armor of the same crystalline material as Cetrion's adornments. Now an Elder God, Liu Kang has the power to withstand most of Kronika's attacks and finally put a stop to her schemes. With that, a now mortal Cetrion appears alongside Raiden in the good endings, intent to use her knowledge of the hourglass to help advise Liu Kang as he fixes what Kronika has broken. In Aftermath, I'm thinking that Kronika becomes more paranoid because she knows she will fail in the future, and thus she is able to notice Cetrion's hesitation earlier and forcefully take her soul. In the Shang Tsung ending, she would appear alongside Raiden and Fujin as one of his enforcers, while in the Liu Kang ending, she maybe appears as one of his followers, or there are statues of various gods at the Wuxi Academy, and she appears as one of them alongside Fujin and Raiden. In the current game, Cetrion has nothing going for her beyond giantess fetishism, and I don't think many fans would feel bad if she was cut from the series forever. The pieces were in place, but NetherRealm failed to utilise them as per usual. Of course, this would hardly fix the dumpster fire that is MK11's plot, a plot so bad that even a lot of diehards aren't happy with it, but it would mean that at least one of the new characters would feel like a real character instead of just a mook to fight. But these changes would give Cetrion's supposed better nature some actual payoff, explain Kronika's brain-dead decision to reveal her hand before anyone even knows she exists, give Dark Raiden's erasure an actual purpose, give the story's catalyst that is Shinnok's head a bit more prominence, explain how Liu Kang can resist and ultimately overcome Kronika's powers, and close with a nice bit of redemption for Cetrion. Certainly sounds better than a character that leaves no impact whatsoever because her setup gets no payoff because she's told to kill herself and just does it, when LTG would make a better antagonist than Kronika and Cetrion. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Think Cetrion Think You're Not an Avatar, flame emoji, water drop emoji, stone face emoji, lightning emoji by somebody because where the fuck else am I gonna find a video about Cetrion? Nobody gives a shit about her. If you think you do, you are wrong.